Dr. Cliff Davidson is a nationally recognized leader in environmental engineering, noted for his research on green infrastructure and climate change awareness, and for authoring more than 200 peer-reviewed publications. He continues to shape the field through workshops on teaching sustainability and service on key professional committees. Hi, Dr. Davidson. Thank you for being here with us today.
I think that one can look at the early writings in some of the ancient civilizations, and one of the very first mentions about the concept of sustainability is in ancient Greece, back during the Greek city-states, when Plato and Aristotle were teaching and also discovering about the world. And they realized that the population increase is not a linear increase. It increases exponentially. And they contemplated that at some point in the future, there are going to be too many people for the resources available. And actually, one example of that they pointed to was deforestation, because each of the Greek city-states had a serious problem with deforestation, and they pointed out that at some point the need for using the fuel wood for cooking, heating water, for example, the need is going to be greater than the availability of that wood, and that it takes time for the trees to grow. And so one can't just cut them down without regard to thinking about the needs for tomorrow. So, of course, they did not have the word sustainability, but certainly they understood the concept of saving resources for the future, which is really one of the essence points of sustainability. So, in fact, the original sustainability which goes all the way back to biblical times, is the idea of economic sustainability, that if a person is going to make something and then sell it, or even perhaps hire people to make consumer products, that they would have to be paid an honest and fair wage for the work that they do, so that they can live comfortably. And the idea of businesses developing and then prospering, of course, was something that was recognized very early. And that really is all about economic sustainability, so that companies don't go out of business, even if they're very small companies, like, individuals that are making carpets, or some of the early metal work that was done making jewelry, for example. So in fact, economic sustainability was the first, but social sustainability was also considered with regard to making sure that people are getting fair wages for their work. Environmental sustainability was not understood for a long time, except for the example that I gave with ancient Greece. But in fact, it wasn't until much later that the idea of an ecosystem that can support human life was realized. And for that, we're talking about much later, because there was not very much concern about the environment for a long time. There were some references to the way people lived their lives in such a way that they could be happy for the long term. And there were even some steps that were taken by early Christianity to discuss, should Christianity support people who are going out and using the ecosystem for various purposes. And so the idea of environmental sustainability, probably with the exception of the ancient Greeks, it probably did not become thought about in earnest until the Middle Ages sometime. So this really gets down to education. If people understand the dependence that humanity has on ecosystems, and in particular on ecosystem services, then there will be much more of an understanding of why we need to preserve these ecosystems and not simply extract resources, both living and non-living, without any limits. People really need to be educated to understand how important it is that we don't destroy those things that we depend on for food, for shelter, for energy, for all of our needs. I guess we are talking here about how people need to adjust their lifestyles so that they can live more sustainably. And what's really important is for people, I think, to understand not only the way the world works, but the way they work and what human limitations are. We have a number of limitations in terms of how well we can understand the complexity of the world around us. And we can't really hope to fully understand the complexity of nature, the complexity of the planet and the way it operates. But what we can try to do is to recognize that we cannot control everything that we see. And nature has existed for a long time, billions of years. There's been life on this planet. Accepting that and learning as much as we can about that, I think, can help us to have more trust in the planetary systems without us having to control them or feel like we need to be in charge, because we can never really be in charge.